Let me tell you something. Life doesn't always give you a clean start. Sometimes it throws you headfirst into a story you never asked to be a part of, and if you blink, you just might miss the chance to make it count. That's what happened. To me. I arrived at Dry Creek on a hot, dusty afternoon, boots pinching my feet, heart racing like it was auditioning for a life I hadn't read the script for. I was supposed to meet a man, a good man, if you believe the letters he'd written, who promised me a home, 7 chickens, fresh eggs, and maybe even a little bit of hope. But when the train hissed away and the dust settled, there was no man waiting. Just a barefoot boy squinting at me like I was a mirage. "You Clara Mayfield?" he asked, all elbows and caution. I nodded because there was nothing else to do. "Pa's dead," he said without blinking. "Snake bite. 2 days back. Buried him ourselves." I wanted to laugh, or cry, or maybe both. "I was supposed to marry him," I said quietly. "He sent for me." The boy shrugged like it was just one more bad turn in a world full of them. "He wrote that letter after he got bit. Said maybe you'd still come. And so, I had. No man. No plan. Just 7 children. Well, 6 now that little Jenny was gone. And a house that looked more like a memory than a home. The oldest boy, Sam, picked up my trunk like he'd carried the weight of the world since birth, and I followed him, wondering what kind of story I'd just stepped into. Inside, the air smelled of ash and silence. The table was set with care and desperation. Thin broth, 1 lonely diced potato, a baby asleep in a crate. The children stared at me like I was both the storm and the shelter. "I'm Ruth," said a girl with tight braids and eyes that had seen too much. "I stir things. Mama used to." She didn't finish, but the room did. It echoed with the emptiness she couldn't say out loud. "I did what you do when you've got nothing but grit and a little meat smuggled past the conductor. Added it to the pot, tossed in some dry herbs, and told them to eat slow. Let their stomachs remember kindness. I didn't take a bite. Sometimes feeding someone else is the first act of love in a broken house. That night, I found a ledger under the floorboards. Births, deaths, half-finished dreams, and at the end, a shaky note. "Clara Mayfield arrives, June 3rd. Treat her kindly. She has nothing, but we'll give her everything we've got." That was Richard, gone but still hoping. Sam told me his father asked him to dig the grave deep and wait at the station. "Didn't want to scare you." "Off," he said. I just nodded. "I'm not scared," I told him. "And I'm not leaving." Not when Ruth still stirred the stew like she was waiting for her mother. Not when the baby needed milk. Not when Sam, barely 12, had more spine than most grown men. But peace never lingers. The next morning I saw smoke rising from the East Ridge, too dark to be a cooking fire. Sam saw it too. "That's not right," he muttered. That night, with everyone asleep, I sat on the porch, shawl tight, eyes wide open. Sam joined me, jaw clenched. "You think someone's coming?" he asked. "Maybe for me, maybe for the land, maybe your pa owed more than just time." I told him I'd fight first. He grinned. "Just a little, just enough." And sure enough, a man came. Tall, rough, worn from life. "Looking for Richard Walker," he said. "He's gone," I replied. He nodded, introduced himself as Warren, Richard's brother. He didn't come to take anything. He came with another ledger full of Richard's letters. "He wanted a heart in this house," Warren said. "Not just a roof." He gave me a key. Under the floorboards was a safe. Inside it, a deed to the land, a pouch of 7 buttons, all different, all saved, and a letter. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. But you came anyway. Not because I chose you, but because I trusted you'd choose them. And I did. Because sometimes, what we inherit isn't land or riches, it's trust, love, the hope that a stranger might choose to stay. Somewhere along the way, you start to believe you were meant to finish what someone else couldn't. That's how it felt for me. Things got worse before they got better. Sickness rolled through like a storm that wouldn't quit. Jonah burning. Up, Ruth barely conscious, the baby gasping for breath between weak little cries. I ran myself raw, trying to hold it all together, boiling willow bark for tea, humming lullabies I didn't know I knew, whispering prayers to a God I wasn't sure was still listening. Warren came back just in time, set up a steam tent with wet blankets and grit, and stayed through the long nights without being asked. We didn't speak much, just sat shoulder to shoulder, listening to the fever breathe its fire across the room. Then one morning Ruth opened her eyes and asked for bread. The baby whimpered like he'd been waiting for permission to survive. Sam looked at me and whispered, "You stayed," and I cried. Not because I was tired or afraid, but because that was the truest thing anyone had ever said about me. But word moves faster than healing in towns like Dry Creek. 2 men showed up with papers and polished shoes, smirks on their faces, and bad intentions tucked in their briefcases. "No marriage certificate, no rights," they said. "These kids belong to the county now." Sam stood in front of them, hands shaking around the rifle but eyes steady as stone. Ruth crossed her arms like she'd been born a general. "She's our family," Sam said. "That's not your call," one man snapped, but Ruth cut in before the dust could settle. "It's not yours either." Just then, Warren walked up. Slow, shotgun resting easy in his arms. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. They left. We stitched the house back together with what we had: feed sack quilts, wool-lined windows, and laughter where silence used to hang like fog. Neighbors dropped off flour, a widow traded apples for wood, and even the preacher sent books with a note that said, "You've done what most of us only pray for." Then one day, just as the frost started to soften, a barefoot girl about 16 showed up with a baby on her hip and a look in her eyes I recognized from my own reflection months ago. Her name was Liza. She didn't need saving, just someone to remind her she mattered. So we took her in. She stayed, and in the dead of winter, our house became a fire that never went out. Spring came muddy and loud, boots stomping in, chickens pecking around the yard, bedtime laughter echoing off the porch. Even when the county men came back, Ruth met them at the door with the rifle Warren gave her. "We've got a judge's order," they said. "We've got a mother," she answered. And that was that. Some truths weigh more than paper ever could. Years passed. The house grew with us. More rooms, a porch swing, a coop full of chickens that actually laid eggs. But some things didn't change. The sound of bare feet on wood, the feel of a baby's head on your chest, the shape of love carved out of stubbornness and grief. So if you're ever lost, hungry, or just plain wondering whether the world's got any light left in it, know this: there's soup on the fire, a bed in the corner, and someone here who understands what it means to stay, even when every bone in you says run. So, what do you think? Is family something we're born into, or something we fight for tooth and nail, stitch by stitch? Either way, you're part of the story now. Stick around. I've got more to tell.